Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Anthony Wade. It is June 26th. For today's episode, we're going back to the never-ending drama-filled world of the NAR Dominionist, Shane Idleman edition. Shane is a pastor from Southern California who, once upon a time, was generally regarded as a decent expositor and preacher of the gospel. Then COVID happened, and he lost his mind, and he got hit upside the head with the MAGA stick, stuck his thumb in the eye of the authority in the state of California, violating Romans 13, reopened his church in the middle of a worldwide plague that killed 7 million people. He still defends it to this day, which is absurd. He has no idea how many people he fed into the COVID wood chipper, but he's going to find out when he stands before Christ. I can guarantee you that. We have done plenty of podcasts about that and how pastors need to learn how to stay in their lane. And unfortunately, one of the problems of this age of social media is with every news story that breaks in the world, everybody's suddenly an expert. I said this back when I think Rodney Howard-Browne was the first idiot to reopen his church in the middle of COVID. And I listen. If I want to understand how to exegete Romans, I'll go to my pastor. If I want to understand what to do in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, that's like the last person I would ask, because they don't know what they're talking about. Unfortunately, the purpose-driven church model has built these cult of personality little fiefdoms that pastors have, and it doesn't survive without the Sunday service, without that hour and a half so they can collect your tithes. It just doesn't survive. Rick Warren has always taught through the purpose-driven church model that churches have to prepare for the church to come. So in other words, they have to run a budget that's higher than what they're taking in the anticipation of the growth that God is going to give. It's true. So then when COVID hit, everybody was kind of holding tight to their money, number one. And number two, when, out of sight, out of mind, right? So, it's not just Shane. I remember Lawrence Sanford, another preacher, reopened his church, I think around the same time. And a month or two in, everything was still going okay. And he was boasting online. I reopened my church 2 months ago. Nobody's sick in my church. And then everybody got sick in his church. Then Lawrence Sanford got sick. Then Lawrence Sanford died. Stay in your lane. If you don't know what you're talking about, don't open your mouth. Anyway, this podcast is actually not about that. This podcast is about, it's so frustrating dealing with Shane. And in a normal world, I'd be able to respond to this post on his page. But the last time I did, he threatened to troll my page, called me a troll, basically, because I had the temerity to ask him a question. And the question for today for this post would be, what the hell are you thinking and doing as somebody who cosplays as a pastor in the Christian church? So the post in question is a video from Fox News, first problem, with the title, "Breaking Leftist Protesters Against the Big Beautiful Bill Are Staging an Insurrection and Have Taken Over the U.S. Capitol." To which Shane says up here, as he reposts this, a legitimate insurrection at the Capitol. So first, let's see the video that Fox News thinks is an insurrection of leftist protesters.
That scene playing out moments ago, demonstrators protesting the big, beautiful bill being arrested on Capitol Hill. The video shows protesters being removed by U.S. Capitol Police. Police have cleared the protesters out of the Capitol building, but we'll keep an eye on this just in case anything else shakes out.
That, Shane? You think that is an insurrection? Now, I understand what Fox News does because that's what their brand is. Their brand is to be absurdly false, to mislead everybody on the right, and to try to destroy whatever narrative the left is trying in this country. The word insurrection is a term used to describe a violent uprising against the established authority or government. So now let's see what actually happened. This was yesterday at the Capitol. This is from Newsweek. Capitol Police zip tie seniors in wheelchairs during a Medicaid protest. Capitol protesters were seen zip tying the hands of senior citizens in wheelchairs on Wednesday during protest against proposed Medicaid cuts. Video shows one officer tightening a zip tie over the wrist of one man in a wheelchair, featuring what appeared to be a communication aid screen next to a senior woman who was already zip tied. A second man in a wheelchair was also shown with his hands zip tied. Footage shared online showed these three detained people lined up outside an elevator with officers nearby. A spokesperson for the Capitol Police told Newsweek, "We always restrain people's hands when they are under arrest for everyone's safety. We don't deviate from that best practice because of someone's age, gender, disability, or any other characteristics." So they admit it. The way to avoid the flex cuffs is to listen to our officers' multiple warnings to not break the law and to lawfully demonstrate in numerous areas of the Capitol grounds where the First Amendment activity is permitted. There's your insurrectionist, Shane. He's a dangerous fellow. Oh, maybe that guy. Maybe that's the one you think was a legitimate insurrection in the Capitol. The context. Republicans are working on a giant bill called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act to help deliver Donald Trump domestic agenda. Changes to Medicaid were always expected in order to offset the cost of providing tax breaks for millions of Americans, actually millionaires and Americans. Yet the size of the scope of these Medicaid cuts has not yet been set. Medicaid cuts proposed by the House Republicans would leave as many as 10.9 million Americans uninsured, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates, while Senate Republicans last week released legislation that proposed cutting Medicaid even more aggressively. The video footage of the protesters being detained was aired during a live broadcast by Scripps News. It showed several wearing black T-shirts with the logo of grassroots group Popular Democracy in action and slogans such as "Healthcare cuts will kill." You see that here on this dangerous insurrectionist who was zip-tied. Here's a picture of the Capitol Rotunda. Two of the protesters lying down in the middle of the rotunda. These people put up a sign, trying to read it, Medicaid, it's something about Medicaid cuts will kill. That is what the video was. It was the cops coming in and breaking this up and taking the banner and then arresting the protesters. Now listen, protesting in the Capitol Rotunda is not allowed. It's breaking the law. And I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that these protesters who organized this did this on purpose, intending to get arrested. That is not an insurrection against the government. It is insulting to even think it is. That people in wheelchairs who are concerned about being one of those 10 million people who are going to be chucked off Medicaid so we can give tax cuts to the richest people in this country came out and exercised their constitutional right to protest their government. Now that's the carnal side of it. The question remains, what the hell is a pastor doing reposting this nonsense? How does that serve the cause of Christ? How does that serve the cause of the gospel? Continuing on, the group organized the demonstration along with Services Employees International Union and Planned Parenthood for America, Scripps News reported. Every elected official, every voter should be disturbed by the choice to rip away life-saving programs and policies from working families to fund another American war in the Middle East. Co-executive directors of Popular Democracy, Analilia Mejia and Demario Cooper told Scripps in a statement, "We are urging our senators to put working families first, stop cuts to essential programs like Medicaid, SNAP, and Social Security." Separate footage at the top of this article from the protest shows people standing at the top of the staircase holding a banner that read, "Senate Republicans, don't kill us, save Medicaid." The video then shows officers running up the stairs to take the banner from them, and the people chanted, "F this bill." 33 people were arrested for illegally demonstrating inside the Russell Senate building office, a Capitol Police spokesperson told CNBC. What people are saying, Capitol Police spokesperson told CNBC, it is against the law to protest inside the congressional buildings. It should be noted that there were other places on the Capitol grounds where people can lawfully demonstrate without issue. That's fine. I mean, again, it seems obvious to me their intent was to get arrested. They're trying to draw attention and media coverage because they are fearful of a bill that's going to throw 10 million people, many with disabilities, off of Medicaid. And even, by the way, if like you buy the hype from the administration that that's never going to happen, which is absurd, it has to happen in order to get the money that they need for the tax cuts. But even if you think it's not going to happen, they still have every right as Americans to protest their government. Now, they didn't have a right to do it in the rotunda. That's the law. I'm sure they knew it. And, they got arrested, and that's fine. But to describe it as an insurrection is ridiculous. Comment from John Schwartz, founder of the People's Union, which has been leading boycotts against the American companies cutting diversity, equity, inclusion initiative, said on Instagram, they crossed the line today. They zip-tied and arrested senior citizens in wheelchairs. He added, that's not law enforcement. This is oppression. And every officer who took part in this should hang their head in shame. Every politician who remains silent is just as guilty. If you think this is acceptable, if you can watch disabled senior citizens get zip-tied for defending Medicaid and call that order, then you are the problem. I have no concern to litigate this because it doesn't affect the cause of Christ. The bottom line is I'm pretty sure these people expected to get arrested. They plan to get arrested. That's what part of protesting is. They'll have it on their record. They'll pay whatever fine they got to pay, and everybody gets to move on with their lives. I don't fault the officers if they have a procedure to follow in terms of zip tying. They say for safety, but the real safety is that if you don't zip tie everybody and somebody goes crazy, then other people get hurt. I mean, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. The issue again is why Shane Eidelman thinks this is a genuine insurrection or legitimate insurrection, and feels compelled as a pastor of the gospel of Jesus Christ to lie, to repost this obvious lie. And he didn't just repost it. He included his commentary that this is a legitimate insurrection. A video by TikToker Millennial Elder sharing clips of the scene was viewed by more than 180,000 times since Wednesday. Was it necessary to zip tie to people who rely on wheelchairs for mobility, or were they going to outrun you? I'm asking you an honest question here because it's absolutely absurd. Fine. Now, when he says a legitimate insurrection at the Capitol, the inference is quite clear what he's saying. He's not only saying that this protest by elderly people in wheelchairs about Medicaid cuts who were peaceful and then arrested peacefully and escorted out peacefully, he's saying that's a legitimate insurrection and clearly inferring that January 6th, with the Trump supporters, with the MAGA supporters, was somehow not a legitimate insurrection. So let's go back to January 6th of 2021, I think. After the 2020 election. During January 6th Capitol riot, one Capitol police officer, Brian Sicknick, died from injuries sustained during the attack. Additionally, 4 other officers who responded to the attack later died by suicide. That's 5 dead cops, Shane. 5. By the people that you glorify. Many others, up to 138 to 140 officers, experienced injuries, some requiring hospitalizations. Sicknick had 2 strokes as a result and then died. 4 others died by suicide: Jeffrey Smith, Howard Liebengood, Kyle DeFreytag, and Gunther Hashida. Injuries: over 100 officers injured. Types of injuries: bruises, lacerations, more serious like concussions, rib fractures, burns, and a mild heart attack. 15 of the officers were hospitalized, some with severe injuries. The attack had significant physical and psychological impact on officers, with some describing the experience as medieval due to hand-to-hand combat and the use of blunt objects as weapons. Sicknick, I believe, was hit in the head with a fire extinguisher. This, Shane, is an insurrection. Just in case you're confused. This is an insurrection. This is not. This little old lady, zip-tied, is not an insurrectionist. These people were insurrectionists. These people who had to climb the walls of the Capitol, broke the glasses, broke the windows, shattered the doors, and invaded the Capitol, then defecated in the well of the Senate, stopped and prayed to Jesus Christ, thanking him for their success that day, erected a gallows to hang the vice president, and was storming around the Capitol office buildings because they wanted to kill Nancy Pelosi. Those people, Shane, are insurrectionists. This was an insurrection. All these people climbing up and hanging out, and they're all partying about. And by the way, don't lose sight of the overthrow of the government thing, because that's part of what an insurrection means. These people were not trying to overthrow the government. They were protesting to try to convince Republicans to not vote for a bill that would take their Medicaid away. That's not an insurrection. These people, who you see breaking down the police barriers, there was a reason why they did this on January 6th. Because inside the Capitol that they were breaking into, they were trying to certify the election that Donald Trump lost by 7 million votes. And they didn't like that. So they wanted to stop it. That's overthrowing the government, Shane. Now listen, I say this a lot, when we get into subjects like this. This is not a carnal discussion. This is not a political discussion. This is a Christian discussion. A Christian pastor reposted this garbage, and by garbage I mean the summary from Fox News at top, referring to it as an insurrection, and then provided his own commentary denigrating the 5 dead officers from January 6th by claiming that wasn't a legitimate insurrection, but this was. And people see this. Shane's got, he doesn't have a ton, but he's got 30,000 followers. I don't know how many he's got on YouTube. He's not like unpopular. People are going to see. Listen, again, I expect this from Fox News. That's their brand. That's what they do. And it's up to you as a discerner of media to decide what's true and what's not. And even their commentary as we were watching this video, which isn't violent, they're trying to take the banner away from these guys. But even the commentator was like, yeah, they were let out peacefully, and we'll try to follow up. So it doesn't even match the silliness of the staging an insurrection nonsense. But don't lose sight. Fox specifically said that for a reason. And it's the same reason that Shane reposted it. And that reason is to pretend that the 1,500 criminals that were pardoned for January 6th, they were just patriots. No, they were criminals. They were violent insurrectionists. 400 of them, I believe, upwards of 400 of 1,500 pardoned, committed violent acts against the police. So spare me your pearl clutching about back in the blue. But none of it matters really for this conversation, because this conversation is about Christ. It's about the gospel. Why is a pastor using his social media to repost political propaganda that's not even vaguely close to being right. What kind of damage does that do for the witness for Christ? Why would anybody want to believe Shane Idleman about the gospel if he treats this so flippantly? This stuff has no place in the church. To denigrate the memories of 5 police officers who lost their lives. And to do so by bearing false witness, I might add, against seniors in wheelchairs, because Jesus. Anyway, thanks for listening to the rant. I saw this and I was just livid. I apologize, but it's very frustrating to see people just trample the gospel like this, just absolutely butcher. People will look at this and they will think what of the church? They will think what of God? They will think what of Jesus Christ? Let me know what you think. Leave your comments. I try to get back to everybody. Give it a thumbs up, share the video. Test everything and hold.